Welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. You can ask me questions in the comment section or use the hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you need any more advice, then join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. What is more exciting than that? Now, during the live session, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with it, and I will share the results with you in the end. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are all having a lovely morning, refreshed, fueled up, coffee in hand. Some of you have probably been up since the crack of dawn, myself included. This is a little bit odd for me to do a live sort of webinar without seeing anybody. So I'm actually just talking to myself, which for those of you who follow me on social media may think that's something I do quite a lot of. And as I'm photographed many times with my shirt off, that perhaps I do love the sound of my own voice and my own reflection, but I can assure you it's normally quite fun to actually interact with some people. But this morning I wanted to talk to you a little bit about diversifying your business, but also diversifying your life in certain aspects. Now, for those of you who've got no idea who I am, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is James Haskell. I was a former professional rugby player for 18 and a half years. I started my career at Wasps, London Wasps, and I made my way around the world playing in France for a couple of years, Japan, New Zealand in the Super 15, and then back to Wasps, and finally to Northampton. I mean, for most people in their career, you know, they try to go to London, New York, Tokyo, Paris. I went to London, France, Japan, New Zealand, and then Northampton. So perhaps just like my career has gone, my living space has also changed to mirror that. I was lucky enough to have played for England 77 times and also got a chance to go on the British and Irish Lions tour. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's a lot about rugby, but what do I know about diversifying business? Well, to be honest with you, from the very first moment I started playing professional rugby, I've always had an eye to what I was going to do outside of my sport. I was there on the training field. Unfortunately, one of my teammates, a guy called Matt Hampson, a fantastic player and bloke, broke his neck. And I know what you're thinking, punchy way to start a morning webinar. But he broke his neck and he was unfortunately paralysed. And for me, that was a real kind of wake-up call in respects of what I needed to do with my life. You know, when you're young and dumb, which most rugby players are, you feel like you're invincible and that you can just focus on your daily life, that everything will take care of itself, and there's absolutely no need to kind of plan ahead or, you know, concern yourself with what you're going to do outside of rugby. You know, when we had a meeting not long ago in the England team, a lot of young players got up and they were asked, what do you do in your spare time outside of rugby? And the unanimous answer was, well, I just go for coffee with the lads. Now, unfortunately, you don't get paid to go for coffee with the lads, because if you did, being an absolute coffee keener like I am, I would have fully maximised that opportunity. So you can see that there's a lot of players who adopt the stance that, you know, let's not worry about it. You know, my body's invincible, everything's going to be okay. But seeing Matt and seeing what happened to him, and actually Matt has gone on to create the Get Busy Living Foundation. He is having an amazing life. He's helped so many people, and I don't think I would have been able to do what he's done in his situation. But for me, it was really important to highlight the fact that I needed to have things outside of my daily life. I needed to have different opportunities, different fallback plans for a number of reasons, which I'm going to come into. And my dad, when I was younger, you know, said to me, listen, you can spend a lot of time sitting on your bum watching Xbox, or you can get off and trying to make stuff happen. So I've always run my own businesses, which has been a great experience. I've had a lot of failures. I've had some successes. I think is always the way. And I think, you know, failing a number of times is always important to help and for you to understand. That's why I feel in a good place to be able to talk to you today. And one of the first things that I set up was a fitness business. It was originally called JH Bodyfire, and then it kind of diversified into James Haskell Health and Fitness. And under that umbrella, I wrote a number of fitness books, training plans. We had a supplement range that went along with the business. We ran fitness camps and kind of boot camps for different people. We did some work with kind of corporate clients, and also we sold merchandise. which meant, creating clothing range. And we even did budgie smugglers. For those of you slightly older who've got no idea what budgie smugglers are, they're basically the new name for those dodgy Speedos that a lot of people wear, but have come back into fashion. So lads, if you've got the body to match, it's not a problem to roll out a pair of Speedos anymore. If you don't have the body, then you look like that bloke off the advert. So stay well clear away. And then I basically went on from running that fitness business to opening a gym, an F45 franchise in Bath, which I currently run. I stepped away from because when I retired, I wanted to focus on some different things, but I'm now fully involved in there. I've also obviously done a lot of speaking. So I do a lot of corporate speaking, after dinner speaking. Perhaps after this video, you'll wonder if I'd ever spoken before, but I've done a lot of those kind of things in that area. I've also set up a shooting business. So we ran a corporate shooting business, not shooting people. Like, I wasn't an organised like corporate assassination group. You probably would have read about that in the newspaper. Well, you might not have done if we were any good at it. But no, it was a corporate shooting day thing. So, a lot of companies like golf days, we put on shooting days. And again, they would be, involving taking rugby players out, shooting, running the whole event side of it. So essentially we had an events company, set up a property company as well, doing some investments and helping different people, as well as kind of moving into my own personal diversification, which has been, DJing. I actually went into MMA, unbelievably. So at the moment, you could say I'm a former rugby playing, cage fighting, DJ, entrepreneur, public speaker. Not at the same time, otherwise it'd be very much like Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins. One day I'm a chimney sweep, next minute I've got a one-man band, and then I'm street painter the day after that. So I've had a lot of opportunity to work with different businesses, and as a professional rugby player, the beauty is that a lot of corporate world enjoy rugby, so there are opportunities to work with people. So, the modern rugby player used to turn up and play rugby, and that was the end of it. Now we spend a lot of time having to be our own videographers, our own social media experts, our own kind of corporate gurus. Most people have a website. Everybody certainly has social media. And if you want to go into products, a lot of rugby players now have their own clothing range. A couple of former teammates have set up their clothing range, etc. And you're now suddenly dealing with branding. So for all my businesses, I've had to put up with different areas of branding and stuff. So I'm in a pretty good place to kind of give an idea as to what on how to move forward. And I think that brings me nicely onto some of the reasons why you'd want to diversify. So I've told you that the reason I got into different businesses was to have something to add on to my existing life. And I think it's actually really important as to why you would want to diversify your business, but also your life. And the reason behind that is, if you just look at it from a mental health point of view and an emotional standpoint, if your day-to-day job, so mine was playing rugby, was going really well, then you're on top of the world. You feel $1 million. But for example, say you're injured or rugby's not going that well. You've come home and have an argument with your wife or your husband. You're suddenly down in the dumps. Your job's going badly, relationship's going badly. You've got nothing that you can call your own, nothing that will keep you level. So when I was playing rugby, I had different options off the field. So for example, if rugby was not going well, or I was injured, and I was injured for a long period of time after the tour of Australia in 2016, I ruptured my toe, my big toe. And yes, that is a serious injury. I know David Hay kind of made a mockery of toe injuries, unfortunately, but it was a serious injury, and I was out for 8 months. And during that period of time, a lot of players see it very, they get very down, they get depressed. Because I had so much else going on, I was setting up this gym, I was just working on my DJing, I'd set up my own podcasts. I mean, I haven't even touched on that with the podcasting I do. So I've now got 3 podcasts that I create. One is produced elsewhere. 2 of them I produce and create myself. So again, the technology aspect to that. So when I was doing all these things off the field, which were going really well, and stuff on the field was going badly, I had something to fall back on. I felt in an emotionally good place, which is really important. I think the other thing with diversifying businesses, it spreads the risk a little bit. I think, you don't want to diversify into something ridiculous. So for example, say you're a coffee shop and you open up next to a Chinese restaurant, and the Chinese restaurant's absolutely packed, week in, week out, day in, day out. Do you start selling Chinese food? No. That's not the answer to do it. Copying someone and trying to do what they do is not the answer. Trying to make you have the best possible coffee, your customer relations the best, making everything streamlined is really important. But you can diversify, to something in the same sort of area. So, for example, when I set up the fitness business, for me, it was training plans. People would come to me all the time and say, James, you're a meathead. You look like a meathead. How do you get bigger? And a lot of men now these days are obsessed with getting bigger and want to build size. So instead of me individually answering people's questions, I realized that I could monetize, and I did that. What comes with training and fitness? Supplementation. So that was another diversification on top of that. It was in the same sphere, but it made perfect sense. Then off the back of that, you would go, well, actually, what do people wear when they're training? Well, they want clothing. Do I want to just do generic clothing, or do I want to do something that's performance related? And so you diversify, but within the realms of what you're looking to do. And I think it also is important for you to look at as a person how you want your work life to look like, because I think there's a real distinct difference between what people have is a career and a job. So a career is something that you're prepared to sacrifice at all times for. It's something that you're desperate to stick with. It's something that you're absolutely passionate about. You love it, and whatever you do, it's going to you're prepared to commit it. So when you are that's a massive thing. A job is where you get a 9 to 5, where you're turning up, you hate what you do. It's important because you've got to pay the bills. Everyone's got to pay the bills. And sometimes people don't have the luxury to do what they love because they have the outgoings. But the ideal is you have a career over a job. And I think that in your diversification of your life and your business, perhaps that diversification is something a lot more along the lines of what you actually want to do. So something that's going to give you a really nice kind of work-life balance, which is going to be really, really nice. I think for me, as you go through, you can add these different layers on top of it. I also think as well, with the diversification, it's about understanding, can you monetize things? How have you monetized it? Is it possible? Because a lot of people come up with diversification for their business and they've almost created solutions for problems that didn't exist. And they get all busy, they set everything up, but they can't, work out how they're going to make money out of it. And also a lot of people, as I said, create things and they're like, oh, I've got this brilliant solution. And actually there wasn't a hole in the market for that, which I think is something to understand that. And another thing is really important is, is understanding really that it's very easy to start a business now. It's really easy to get up and start putting businesses together. But, perhaps you need to actually spend a little bit of time thinking clearly, because it's so important for you to, it's so important for you to, it's so easy for you, to set up a website, so easy for you to set up a social media, so easy for you to get a product done, so easy to all this kind of stuff. And it's actually a point where you need to step back and say, right, who's doing what I do already? If I'm copying someone or along the same idea, how can I learn from them? Where's my end goal? How do I monetize that end goal? Right? Because people start an idea and then find out they can't charge for it. They haven't got the e-commerce platform. There's suddenly a social media based business that you can't take orders. Who's going to fulfill the orders? So understanding those areas. I think as well, looking at branding. So for example, I set up a supplement range, right? And I created this product. I thought it was amazing. We spent ages working on the branding, we spent ages doing everything. Went to a big exhibition, big stand, spent the money, everything looked $1 million. And when I got to the event, in the first 2 hours, I realized that on the product, it didn't say what the product was. And it sounds like the stupidest thing in the world, but because you sometimes can't see the wood from the trees, you end up spending so much time looking at what you're doing, but you don't necessarily have an opportunity to get people's advice. And I think really important when you're looking to diversify, there's people doing what you have done or want to do. So reaching out and getting some feedback, getting some advice is really, really important. And understanding how to sort of get underway is really important. Actually, going slowly is much better than pulling the trigger straight away. And you've got kind of two people in life, and ideally the third one is where you want to be. Is that you've got the guy, the machine gunner, like me, starts up businesses, firing machine gun bullets everywhere. But actually, what you want to fundamentally do is try your very best to be more precise with what you shoot, with how you shoot. But I've got some questions here that I'm getting told to answer here, so I will go and answer a couple of them. I've got one from Josh from Facebook Live feed. Hey, Hask, what made you choose a franchise when starting a gym rather than one branded by yourself? It's a great question. I think, to be honest with you, the reason I went along with a franchise was the simplicity. I didn't know a lot about that market area, even though I've trained in gyms before. It's very different training in a gym and then running it and all the different facilities. So almost having like a flat pack gym that you go and install and set up I found was much easier and quite simple to do. It's turned out to be actually way harder, again, because you need that expertise. You know, when you're setting up a business and diversifying, you need to be on there. Do not ever think you can set up a franchise and do it from a distance, because you can't. Nobody cares about your business as much as you do. And a lot of time people are buying into business because of you, which is really, really important. I've got Nicole from Facebook Messenger who says, "Hi, James, do you have any tips on overcoming nerves with public speaking? I sometimes have to do business pitches and get very anxious beforehand." Look, everybody gets anxious before you do a talk. It's even more, I get even more anxious when I can't see anybody and I'm just basically shouting at myself in what looks like my nan's living room at a computer. So everybody gets nervous, but I think it's important to harness that. And also, I think preparation in my career in rugby, in DJing, in writing, in after dinners and everything else like that, whatever it might do, is always about, if you do the preparation and you're completely waxed on all your material, you feel comfortable, you've got notes as a safety net, so you won't lose your way. It's actually really fun. And I think there are, a couple of different types of people. Like, I'm a natural performer. I want to speak. I love doing it. And I think that's really important. I'll read a couple more questions out as we go along. I said, Caroline from the YouTube feed, have you found working together with your wife, Chloe, in a business context? How have you found working together with your wife, Chloe, in a business context? Is it easy to maintain the blend between personal and professional? Look, small business owners, I know a lot of you are, often will work with families and work with different people. It's never easy. And my actual advice would be to try to avoid it. And I'm not saying I haven't had an amazing relationship with Chloe, because we got into this with something sensible, which is a passion project. And that was something I was going to talk about, later, sort of earlier on, was that if you set out to do business and that you are doing it just purely to make money. So the reason I made mistakes before was that I was all about the money. So my father helped me with a fitness business. He knew nothing about fitness, but he saw dollar signs at the end of the rainbow. So we both got into it to do that. I was already living the fitness lifestyle. I was already getting involved. I understood training. I'd worked with the best fitness trainers in the world, but money was my orientation. And if you're solely focused on money, you're going to fail. And the reason is because you have to be passionate. If you're passionate, you have a career. If you're ruthless, you just want money, it's a job. And with passion, the money comes naturally. Anyone you look at successful is passionate about what they do. They love what they do. They set it up and they loved doing it. And by byproduct, they got money. So actually with Chloe and I, we haven't gone into something to make money. We got into something which was a passion project, which was Couples Quarantine, which was a podcast where, yes, we like every couple, we have a row. That's why we wanted to set up the podcast to start with. But I think that, we have a lot of fun doing it. We get to explore some ideas. It's quite cathartic. We were talking about different areas of relationships and it's one of those things where we're sort of sharing different ideas. So you're kind of developing. But I also work with my father, and that's been far more stressful. Age gap, different generation gaps. You always see it. An older parent, a younger kid, the diversity of different ideas. Social media wasn't a thing when my dad was around. His technological know-how is pretty poor, whereas I spend my whole life doing everything. So it's a very different kind of situation, something that really needs to be considered when you're working with someone. I also think as well, just going to expand on one thing, when you're a small business, you're obviously looking at everything you can possibly do to help diversify, help to offer different solutions. And I think a lot of people look at social media as a tool to do that. Oh, company X and Y are on social media, I have to be on social media. If your company does not lend itself to social media, you can't force it. With all due respect, nobody is going to tune in to, something that's just not engaging, something that isn't fun. You don't need to be on it. You're better off spending your time and energy on, your customer, how your customers put things in on the e-commerce. So many times people put products, for example, if you're a product-based business, into the shopping cart and they don't pay for it. Why? What's the platform there? What's the issue? Is there not like the customer experience? Could you streamline your branding? Could you do your fulfillment better? What's your public relations like? They're things that you could better off spend money on than going, I've got to have a cool Instagram picture showing, piles of pens that I have, because your customers may not be interested in that. And I think that's what's really important is along with the passion, along with understanding how to monetize it, is also know your market. we have a beautiful system now of analytics everywhere. Like, you can get it off your social media, you can get it off your Facebook page, you can get it off your website. You can do simple customer forums when someone calls up the phone. Where did you hear about us? How did you find out about? What's your age? Send out customer forms. Even do MailChimp mailers to get an idea of where you're going, because analytics are key. If you're suddenly doing all your marketing, well, I'll give you an example. So my demographic is you're going to be shocked to discover is 80% men and 20% women. Right? I know what you're thinking. How am I not engaging with the female audience? But what is the point of me doing a whole load of female branded material, a female range? I mean, I had a female range in my supplement range, a female clothing range. Yes, we sold bits and pieces, and I was trying to be, all things to all men, and I felt there was a market. But what was the point? And through analytics, I discovered just leave that. What is the point of me talking about being, my desire to be a vegan or a vegetarian? Look at me. Do I look like I'm a vegan or vegetarian? No. So you've got to stay in your lane and understand what your lane is and own it. And don't keep looking over the fence at other people. My last piece of advice for the last few questions is, it's very easy in life once you share what you're doing for other people to have a go, or for you to look at other people. And you should look at other people for inspiration. I understand that. And sometimes inspiration can be demotivating. So I want to be a professional DJ. I absolutely love it. I live and breathe it. It's my passion. I'm not interested in making money out of it. It's all I want to do. It's what I get excited about doing. But then I look at other guys, I look at my peers, I look at world-class DJs, and I'm like, how am I going to get there? But I know that through being sensible, practicing, getting feedback from the right people, committing to what I do, putting the time in, perfecting my art, that will eventually come. But every now and then I'll wake up in the morning going, so-and-so is over there. I started before him. How am I going to get there? But that should motivate you. It might give you a little stab in the heart to start with, but it should really motivate you. And I think that's really important. But also understand what you do and do it well. Now we've got a couple last questions here. I said, Andy from Facebook Live, excuse me, great thoughts so far. So many things going on. How do you manage your days to get everything done? So time management is key. And obviously, if you're self-employed like I am, it can be real carnage. So organization is absolutely vital. So when I retired, I know it's going to sound big time, but I got myself a virtual PA. And you pay for these by, blocks, 5 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours. And do you know what I did? I said, right, all the admin, diary management, I need you to handle that. Change the game. So booking flights, organizing things, getting stuff, liaising with people, that's changed for me. So my diary is very organized. I put things in blocks throughout the day. So for example, the worst thing you can do now, especially in lockdown, if the kids are still at home or whatever, is you open your laptop, you've got WhatsApp going, you've got Instagram message going, you've got your Facebook on, you've got your email pinging, you've got your diary going, you've got a Zoom conference call. You need to block your diary out and go, right. So I woke up this morning and I dedicated 1 hour to all my emails. No social media, no phone, no distraction, hammering that. Once that was done, I was like, right, I'm going to do this talk. After this, I've got an hour for training. That's my quiet time, headphones in, music on, chill. After that, and I blocked, after that, I've obviously got to eat because this body's not fueled on dust and good dreams. And then we go again and go again. And that's how you organize it. If you try to do everything at once, you'll fall apart. And also understand when to shut off. So I was still working at 10:30 last night, which is not what my wife and I agreed, because she works even harder than I do. She's training 800 people online. She's managing them all. We said at 7 o'clock, we need to draw a line under it. We have an Indian takeaway and we'll watch Homeland and we'll switch off. So that's really important to do that. I've got George from Facebook Messenger. Hey, James, were there any transferable skills you picked up playing for England and British Lions that you now use in the business world? Yes. Communication, really important. Feedback, who to filter out, but who to listen to. Understanding the commitment to the job, and those who are successful put the extra work in. So if you want to be better at something, don't go, I can't understand how to do computers, I can't do it. Go and learn. There's a course, there's an online thing, there's a YouTube, there's a seminar, there's probably a free service. I also understood how to be a different manager to different people. Some people need a kick out the backside. Some people need to be motivating. All these other bits and pieces are really important. And, I think for me, that's a really, really sort of exciting area of actually seeing how you get the best out of your team and not approaching everybody with the same sort of brush, because it's not the way to do it. You need to kind of understand how your team ticks, how to motivate them and how to speak, but also how to deliver feedback and make people accountable. In 2020, being honest with someone and upfront with someone is very difficult, especially in the corporate world. In rugby, it's a bit like the Wild West. Some of the things that went on in meetings and the way people were dressed down, I'm not advocating. But I would say that we have a certain level of honesty and integrity. And, especially with men, we don't always put our hands up and say that we were at fault. But in a rugby environment, you would put your hand up and say, listen, I'm here, I'm there. So, I made those mistakes. Nick from Twitter, morning, Hask. How have you found the process of writing your own books? Has there been any particular highlights? Look, I think writing a book is again, an interesting skill, especially as I was told when I was at school that I would never properly read and write. So, having written 4 books now, I'm pretty pleased with myself, as you can imagine. The fitness book was really interesting and was really kind of fun, and it was 100,000 words, and it was kind of a real fitness Bible and a real labour of love. But the editing process with my publishers was a nightmare, very difficult, very stressful. Halfway through the Lions tour in New Zealand, I was putting different folders, exercise photos in different folders. I was editing text while Sean O'Brien, my fellow teammate, was making a racket. That's not ideal. So that was very difficult. My new book, What a Flanker, was so much fun. So many times I was in tears of laughter. I actually read the audiobook myself and do all the stupid voices. And that was a real labour of love. For my entirety of my career, I've spent a lot of time being not honest, not because I've got stuff to hide, but because it wasn't good for the team. It would have caused media storm. It would have affected my career. And now in this book is an opportunity for me to tell the truth, but also reveal a different character of that I've got. And I think that's why I've loved the podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Rugby. Seb from Facebook Messenger, I'm a big fan of the podcast you do with Alex Payne and Mike Tyndall. What's next for you guys on the podcast? Well, this is another business. Again, I do sound a bit like Dick Van Dyke. I apologise, but I set up a production company 6 months ago with Alex Payne and Mike Tyndall to produce the podcast, The Good, the Bad, the Rugby. We felt that we could develop this, into a bigger product, in terms of a brand, and now having. I was labelled a brand by a disgruntled coach once, saying that I was more interested in business than I was rugby. And I took a lot of criticisms for always having that diversified life, and it gave me a lot of balance. And I think with the podcast, we want to do live shows, merchandise, a tour, go on the Lions, really get to know different personalities, and also develop much more content, mini pods, etc. Right, the last question I've got for you, ladies and gentlemen, this morning is good morning, James. Would you say in business it's always good to follow a passion, or are there any exceptions? If so, what are they? Look, I think it is always important to follow a passion, and sometimes people don't know their passion. So what their passion is, there's that famous song by Baz Luhrmann who says basically, lots of 50-year-olds don't even know what they want to do. I think you've got to make money because the gas man and the electricity board don't take England caps and merchandise in payment. You've got to have hard currency. But I think you can find your passion and work along the side, which is really important, and that's why you should diversify. If you're, going to work every day and you don't like your job, it's very easy to set up your own small business, perhaps in an interest you want to do, and it's really kind of fun. Right, we've got the poll results in. We asked you, have you thought of diversifying your business interests? 45% of you said you have diversified, 9% of you said no, and 45% said they are thinking about it. So it's really interesting to see that people want to take that leap. Some people have taken that leap and some people haven't. Any questions, please get in touch with QuickBooks support team on Facebook or myself on Instagram. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Jenny Dunman, who is a multi-award winning franchisor of Daisy First Aid. Jenny is also an angel investor, success mindset speaker, and runs a charity. A reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. Thank you for all tuning in today. Have a great day, and I'll catch you all soon.